What's up, everybody? It is I, TevinElChopo, friends call me Chop, and we're back with another review. This time we're talking about the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith show on Amazon Prime. Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a 2024 remake of the 2005 movie of the same name. Now, the 2005 movie starred Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, while the new show stars Donald Glover and Maya Erskine as the main roles. Now, my memories of the 2005 movie were scarce. I did in fact watch the movie before watching the show just to get more acquainted with the storyline ahead of time and everything. Now, I personally enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the TV show, but I enjoyed them for different reasons and for the different takes that they take on the source materials. Now, as much as I enjoyed Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon Prime, I initially, before I started watching it, was very hesitant. I did not think that this was something that needed to be remade. I think that in Hollywood in general, there's been emphasis on remakes versus making original IPs and turning them into something special, or even remaking things that maybe didn't work out at first that could be better off with a new adaptation and everything. So when I started seeing more promotional material for this new show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I definitely started having questions about whether or not this was necessary. And then finding out that Donald Glover would be coming off of Atlanta doing this, I also became even more skeptical, especially finding out that he would not only be a part of the show behind the scenes, but he will also be one of the main characters in the show as well. But one thing that I will say now that I've seen the entire show is that it doesn't necessarily try to be the same as the 2005 movie at all. It doesn't try to adapt the source material in the exact same ways. If anything, it tries to take the premise of the show and essentially flip it on its head and turn it into its own original idea and its own original storylines that can carry a show a lot longer than a movie could. Now, while both the TV show and the movie both follow John and Jane Smith within their marriage, they take two completely different approaches with the material. Now, the 2005 movie works because of the chemistry between the two leads, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Their chemistry is what leads the entire movie, also on and off the screen. Now, one thing that I realized upon doing research for this video is that this is also around the same time that the rumors of their romance had started to blossom. So essentially what happened was Brad Pitt was dating Jennifer Aniston at the time, and supposedly he was cheating on her with Angelina Jolie around the same time this movie came out, which not only bolstered the headlines just in general, but also bolstered the headlines for this movie now that they're starring as a husband and wife, and then will later on be in an entire relationship afterward. Now, when you're watching the movie, you can definitely see that there is a lot of chemistry between the two together. The movie essentially highlights a failing marriage and how them finding out that they're rivals for different spy companies essentially revitalizes their relationship to the point of bringing them even closer together. The movie also displays just their two sides of their lives with their friends. Vince Vaughn playing the friend of Brad Pitt in the movie, and for Angelina Jolie's friends, you have her co-workers at her spy agency that she works for, all of which giving their input on their relationship. But no matter what is being told about either one of them, they do manage to in fact stay together towards the end. Now, while the plot of the movie is simple, again, two spies who don't know that they're spies but happen to be married, but then also happen to be on opposite sides when they are pit against each other. What carries the movie more than anything is, like I said, the chemistry between the two leads, the bombastic action sequences, and just the general energy of the movie overall. Now, it's not the most original movie in the world, but it is a very entertaining watch nonetheless. And with the 2024 show, on the other hand, while they necessarily tone down the action to a sense, there are many action sequences throughout the show that are quite entertaining. There are also many good jokes and punchlines of that nature as well that are also very, very good. The one thing that makes the show a lot different from the movie is just its character study and also its study of a normal relationship within the confines of the source material. So unlike in the movie, John and Jane in the Amazon TV show know that they're spies and they're actually working together within the same agency. And the goal is for them to work missions together and be successful. And after a certain point of not being successful is when they would potentially get terminated. So that gives them the motivation to continue to work together even when things get thick and thin in their actual relationship. And the show does a good job per episode of showing just the different phases of a normal relationship within the premise of the two leads being spies. So you get the first date phase, you get the honeymoon phase, you also would get the turbulent phase in the middle of the relationship, potential cheating and breakups and everything that comes with a normal relationship. It just so happens that if they can't learn to work together, then they'll be in trouble with their spy agency that they work for. So not only does the show do a good job of showing you the stakes of what needs to be done within the relationship to work, but also the stakes of their working relationship as well, so that if they fail, essentially we feel the weight of the failure. And when they succeed, we rejoice in their successes as well. And this approach of telling a human story within a more surreal situation is what sets it apart from the movie more than anything. The movie is all surreal, 100%. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's not meant for you to see this relationship between the two leads as something that is realistic or something that you can empathize in any real capacity, especially when they start to find out more about each other once they reveal to each other that they're actually spies against each other. But in the TV show does a great job of just showing you the cracks within the relationship, having them develop as people, having them develop for each other, and also having to develop for the sake of their missions that they have to go on each and every episode. It gives the characters more of an identity than the movie did as well. So in the movie, John, aka Brad Pitt, I'm just going to keep calling him Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt in the movie is just the jock character who doesn't have too much know-how, but he does manage to get the job done in his missions. Whereas you have Angelina Jolie, who is the more sophisticated and intelligent spy between the two, who can get the one up on anyone, not only with her charm and her looks, but also with her intellect as well. In the TV show, John is the one that is more charismatic and can not only succeed with his wit, but also is able to show his intellect and show that he can operate quickly under pressure, versus Jane, i.e. Maya Erskine, who is not necessarily as cunning, but she is definitely smart in her own right. She's very tactful and very resourceful in her own ways as well. Again, traits that weren't necessarily seen in the characters in the 2005 movie. So like I said, the TV show is a lot less action focused than the movie was, but there is still plenty of action to be had. There are a lot of fun action set pieces in the show, specifically towards the end as well, that I think that were very entertaining. Now, similar to the movie, the main draw is the chemistry between the two leads. Donald Glover and Maya Erskine do a great job of showing you just the real and raw situations within any relationship. The ups, the downs, the in-between times, all of which are highlighted very good to the point where it's almost scary. Specifically, there was a scene where Donald Glover was arguing with Maya Erskine in such a way that was so realistic that I found it very cringy to watch. That just goes to show how believable the relationship got to a certain point within the series. Something that, again, the 2005 movie didn't necessarily care to do in any real capacity. Also, with it being a show, it has a lot more time to develop the characters, of course, but also put them in a variety of situations that the movie didn't necessarily concern itself with. Now, with it being a movie, of course, I understand that we couldn't go to multiple set pieces and we couldn't have multiple different storylines, multiple missions going on, because for the sake of the movie, it would make the movie too long and it wouldn't necessarily be conducive with anything that the main plot has to focus on. Now, on a TV show where you can isolate things a little bit better, the missions are isolated per episode, but they're isolated in such a way that it still shows the natural progression of the main character's relationship. You see them change and develop into people that not only can work together, but can be together in a personal relationship. I've also found that the set pieces were quite beautiful. There were many scenes and many shots that I really enjoyed seeing. And overall, the cinematography was done very well throughout the entire show. Not to say the movie didn't have its moments of being well shot, but I just found that, again, with the amount of time that the show had with the leads and the amount of time that it had to expand on so many different locations and different missions, that a lot more of the cinematography could stand out a lot better with the time that they had than it had in the actual movie. And while I did find the side characters in the movie to be quite serviceable for their roles, I found that the side characters in the TV show were a lot more entertaining, specifically John Turturro and Ron Perlman, who make appearances in the show, both of which steal every scene that they're in. Even the character Hi Hi, who they get all their missions from, while you don't actually see them as a person, you do get to see how they not only track the missions that they're on, but also slowly but surely start to put John and Jane against each other. And I found that to be very interesting as well. well. So overall, I think the movie and the show are both equally enjoyable, but for different reasons. I think that the movie is, of course, a lot more of a actioner, turn your brain off type movie where you don't have to necessarily think too hard about any of the characters or think too hard about what's going on around them. It's essentially just a straightforward action movie that you can get a lot of thrills out of just through the sequences alone, and have a great chemistry between the two leads that also carries the film as well. But the TV show does those things, but in a more toned down approach. It takes its material a little bit more seriously and actually tells a more human story because of it. And the human story just makes it more relatable. Anyone who's ever been in a relationship can relate to the things going on in this show a lot more than the things that were going on in the movie. Not to mention that there are also action sequences and comedy in the TV show. They are also quite enjoyable as well. So overall, I think that they're both two different experiences between the movie and the TV show that are enjoyable in their own right, but for different reasons. So whatever you get away from the movie, you can get different things from the TV show and vice versa. So it's a good watch on both sides. If you decide to watch one, I would say go ahead and watch the other just to see what you think. I would personally recommend both just off the fact that I enjoyed both of them. I think that they're good approaches with the simple source material that they have. And again, they're so varied in their attempt that not only are they different experiences, but a part of me could even think that there's a possibility that they could be in the same universe. Who knows? So yes, these are my thoughts of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the 2024 show, and also the 2005 movie. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Again, my name is TevinElChopo. Friends call me Chop, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.